Welcome back, everybody. Today, Donald Trump is in some trouble. There's actual scandal. You see, a woman named Susie Wiles has come out to expose Donald Trump. You might be wondering who she even is, how she's relevant, what she could know about Donald Trump that would even matter. But much like many others who have worked at the White House before and exposed hilarious stories about how ridiculous Trump is behind the scenes, she also worked at the White House. Pretty important position in the White House as well. Left that position and is now doing a bit of a tell-all art, in which we're hearing a lot of very interesting things. The big headline that a lot of people are talking about is that supposedly, despite being a teetotaler, meaning he does not drink alcohol at all, Donald Trump, behind the scenes, acts like a raging alcoholic. And if you've ever been around a raging alcoholic, you know that it's not just the raging part. Trump is dumb, angry, goofy, can't follow along with anything, stumbling around and acting like he's a dementia patient all the time. He really is checking off all the boxes of an angry drunkard. And he doesn't have alcohol to blame on it either. That's just his sober brain acting that way. Imagine if you did get him drunk. That aside, though, this story has been getting a lot of discussion, and not a lot of people have talked about it yet because it's fresh off the presses. It's today's news, so I thought we'd just get right into it without too much further ado. But before we do, if you end up liking this video, please consider leaving a like on this video. Every like is a suggestion to the YouTube algorithm that my content's good enough to push out to more people, so it really does help a lot, and I appreciate it. Comment down below if you want to help to boost the video. It does help a lot. And of course, consider subscribing if you want to see more from me in the future. And if you want to see more from me just in general, be a part of the community and the, fan base and whatnot, the main hub of my community, join my fan Discord, which is linked down below in the description, and hopefully I'll see you around. But without any further ado, guys, let's get right into it. We've got some news to talk about.
This just in, a revealing new interview with really the most powerful person in President Trump's White House beyond him. Chief of Staff Susie Wiles commenting and going there on a wide range of topics, it seems, with Vanity Fair in a new series of interviews, from the handling of the Epstein investigation to her assessment of the big names on Donald Trump's team. Let's get to CNN's Elena Treen, who is at the White House. There seems to be a lot in there, Elena. What is your...
This is the thing about Donald Trump and his attempt to take over America. I'm not entirely sure that you can do this in our democratic system of bureaucracy and purge people that don't agree with you and not have all of the crazy stuff you're doing behind the scenes come out. There's so many people at the White House that work, high-ranking positions and don't have a partisan bias for Trump. So they're just going to end up leaking stuff like this. It's already happened before. Y'all remember when after the election, we found out that Trump learned he didn't win and that there wasn't going to be any successful move to overturn the election results, and he threw his nuggies at the wall and spattered ketchup and mustard all over the walls of the White House, the Oval Office, during his tantrum. Do you guys remember that? The only reason we know that is because White House staffers get fed up, quit their jobs, and then they start talking.
Big takeaway.
I mean, look, I've covered the president, and I've also covered Susie Wiles for years now, Kate, and this is one of the most candid interviews and stories that she's offered, interviews she's offered, really, from the entire time I've done that. This is incredibly candid, some of the things that she was admitting, because I will tell you, too, Wiles is someone who often likes to operate kind of in the shadows and quietly. She doesn't like to draw attention to herself, and that's why I think some of what people are waking up and reading this morning is so stunning to hear about. But let me get into some of the main things that I found very notable from what Chris Whipple, who works with Vanity Fair, detailed from their conversations. One is that Wiles referred to President Trump as someone having a, quote, alcoholic personality. She also talked a lot about...
Alcoholic personality is crazy. It's wild how many of the people who are so performatively pro-Trump in front of the cameras revert to a normal person's position on Trump the second they're no longer beholden to Trump's fan base, Trump's cult. The second they're back to normal person life and they don't need to keep up appearances for these people, they're immediately not shilling and paying lip service for Trump. It was always a grift. It was always just, if you're going to be a part of the Trump administration, if you're going to follow the world's most powerful person, you've got to bend the knee and you've got to kiss the ring.
The vice president, J.D. Vance, someone who I should note, had this conversion that Whipple noted as well from never Trumper to a MAGA acolyte. Susie Wiles essentially said that change, that conversion has been, quote, sort of political. And she said the vice president has been a, quote, conspiracy theorist for a decade. She also talked about Russell Vought. He is the White House budget chief, but he's also, of course...
Dude, a lot of people don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes with Russell Vought. I like to call him Russell Vought because obviously the boys reference is right there, but also this guy is actually the true mastermind behind everything. Like, Steve Bannon is pretty up there. Like, he caused a lot of the era that we're living in right now, but Russell Vought was the main guy at the very top of the totem pole behind Trump's original run for president, behind Breitbart, I believe. Like I believe he's one of the biggest backers of Steve Bannon, and he was... Oh, fuck, what was the other big thing he was behind? I think he's behind Project 2025 as well. Like, it's insane how much of the right wing's attempts to take over our society all go back to this one guy over the last couple decades.
One of the architects of that notorious Project 2025 conservative blueprint for the future of our Republican Party, something that Trump had previously, of course, disavowed. She argued that vote is, quote, a right-wing absolute zealot. And then she also went to a number of different things. One, she talked about Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, someone who was one of her closest friends, I should note, in this administration. She argued that Bondi, quote, completely whiffed the handling of the Epstein files. She also talked about how the president who came in and offered a series of pardons to really roughly 1,000 people who were convicted for their crimes on January 6th. She essentially admitted that she had urged the president not to pardon those who had committed violent crimes on January 6th and on the Capitol attack. She also
And he did anyway. He did anyway. And it's so wild because you've got all the people who are currently forced to be a part of the cult because, well, they choose to grift and benefit from being part of Trump's cult. But you can see they're so restricted in what they can say, and they're constantly virtue signaling how much they love Trump and how perfect he is, and, you know, they're the most fierce defenders. But then they immediately switch up on that shit once they're not getting a paycheck based on how pro-Trump they are anymore. They're such disingenuous people, man. Some people out there are really willing to throw away every last shred of their principles and character for just a little bit of extra money.
also talked about how she disagreed with him sometimes when it came to tariffs, saying that she had urged him to delay some of the tariffs that he ultimately announced. And it goes on. There's a lot of other areas where she kind of talks about kind of disagreeing with him, but also ultimately her role is as a facilitator rather than, you know, past White House chiefs that we've seen, notably people like John Kelly during the president's first administration, who at times tried to hold him back. She sees as her job trying to kind of shape what he does, but also not preventing him from doing what he wants to do. One very notable quote as well that stuck out to me, just given the context of what's very much in the news right now, is Venezuela. She admitted publicly that one of the goals...
Yeah, for those that haven't been following that news, I'm probably going to have to do a dedicated segment to it if things start getting crazier. But Donald Trump is really acting as though he wants to go to war with Venezuela. He's essentially said he wants to, and he is prodding and encouraging it. Trump has also ordered some basically piracy on the sea. Like, it is absurd what we're doing right now when it comes to prodding other nations that we're not necessarily at war with, we're not necessarily at peace with, you know what I mean? Like, Trump's gonna get us into a war. Probably with Venezuela. Like, it's insane. It might actually happen. It's going to be really funny when all the anti-war people who voted for Trump because they think he's a true isolationist, anti-globalist, anti-war guy who's just going to keep our tax dollars here in America. It's going to be so funny if before this month ends, Trump manages to start a war with Venezuela. Year one of his second term, and we're in a war that he directly starts out of nowhere for no reason. Oh, man. He almost did that in his first term, by the way.
Of this administration and the president is actually to see regime change in Venezuela and oust Nicolas Maduro. I should note that is not what the White House line has been on this. The White House line has been that this is all about trying to crack.
And make no mistake, Maduro's awful, but we should not be going to war with Venezuela. Not right now either. Unless somehow the war is going to generate a ridiculous amount of job opportunities. Because to be fair, maybe the job creation could be a factor that helps Americans right now, but I don't think it's worth it.
Crack down on narco-terrorists and illegal drug trafficking. She essentially said this on Venezuela. She said, quote, "He wants to keep on blowing boats up until Maduro cries uncle. And people way smarter than me on that say that he will." Again, a major contradiction in what we've heard from the White House on all of this. And the last thing I just want to quickly point you to, there's a lot in this. I do encourage our audience to actually go and read these.
One of my favorite things was that over the last 4 years, we've gotten a bunch of declassified documents from the Trump administration about special forces operations he ordered under his leadership, and how badly they went because of how badly planned and how rushed they were under his presidency. So once Trump is out of office, expect for the next few years for us to see reports coming out of just insane, botched special forces and military operations that Trump ordered that we never heard about or will never hear about until years from now. Like, there are events that'll be happening in the future, and we won't be hearing about them for like another 8 years. And it'll be the most ridiculous shit we're gonna be finding out was actually going on with Venezuela and us bombing those boats. It's gonna be way crazier than we even think, I bet.
Very lengthy and detailed articles from Vanity Fair, but she talked about retribution, and she said that she had some sort of agreement with the president that she didn't want him to be focused on score settling, that she was going to give him 90 days and then he kind of had to move on from it. But she also acknowledged that some of the recent indictments we've seen against some of the president's political foes, people like the former FBI director James Comey or the New York Attorney General Letitia James, both people who we've seen this Trump administration now bring indictments against. She admitted that, yeah, that kind of is political. She said the Letitia James indictment specifically, she said that one you could call retribution. And so incredible stuff in here from Wiles, who, again, one of the most powerful people, if not the most powerful person in this White House, apart from Trump, being very, very candid in this interview, Kate.
Man, I'm really wondering how much more we're going to find out after this current Trump term. Like, if it ever ends. If it ever ends, of course. I think it will, though. Because you got to know that the next Democrat presidency is going to end up ordering DOJ investigations into all of the paper trail that will inevitably be left over after this. You remember how much there was after his first term, and now there won't be the potential of him having the presidency again, and they are going to go after him. The Supreme Court may have decided that he's immune to whatever, but I don't know. I think when there's a new administration in charge, and everyone recognizes the Supreme Court is blatantly partisan, I think that the Supreme Court's decision might end up just being ignored. Genuinely. I could see the Democrats playing really dirty and just straight up ignoring the decision that Trump is immune and press charges against him anyway for the crimes he's committed while president. I could definitely see that. After all this, if the Dems take the next election, I could see it. I'll be disappointed in them if they don't. They tried. They went after him for everything before. The only reason why they didn't get him is they had, unfortunately, really soft judges. Not even soft judges, just judges that were too scared to come off as though they were being biased, because Trump was personally attacking these judges so much that if they ruled like harshly against him, it would come off as like, emotional and personal and not an impartial judgment. And so Trump just kept getting slaps in the wrist. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think the next judge that Trump is in front of is going to want to go hard.
A lot more to come. Elena Treen, thank you so much. Important that you're hearing publicly, really for the first time, someone as high up as Susie Wiles saying that the point is to get Maduro out, not just stop drug trafficking from the nation. This is an important development. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for jumping on.
It's interesting. President Trump's White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, I assume you've met her, you know her. She told Vanity Fair in a newly released interview that her boss, quote, we're talking about the president, quoting her, has an alcoholic's personality, governing with a, quote, view that there's nothing he can't do. President Trump famously does not drink.
I don't like that.
And Wiles herself grew up with an alcoholic father. Wiles is now calling this a hit piece. How do you respond to that long interview she gave to Vanity Fair?
I didn't see that clip. I saw some other ones about Ukraine that she said about the president. Again, I think it's helpful. If we come back and say, Mr. President, we disagree, he could have had a much better tariff policy if he would have come to the Congress. There's some tariffs I would have supported.
That's the thing. Donald Trump doesn't care about actually solving any problems. This is the delusional belief that Trump supporters and Republican voters have been convinced of, is the idea that Donald Trump has any of their best interests at heart. That the reason he wants to win the presidency is to make America great again. That's not even slightly true. Donald Trump wants the presidency so he will have power. We all know the type of person Donald Trump is. He loves winning. He loves being above everybody else. Obviously, he wants to be president. He wants to win at being president. He doesn't have any altruistic motivations behind his desire to hold this office. They're entirely selfish. Even Trump supporters who know his personality well enough, because they've listened to him a lot, should be able to recognize he's not the... Of course he's the kind of guy who wants to win the presidency for the sake of winning it. You know, do we really believe he's not willing to say anything to win? Like, that's Donald Trump's whole thing, is winning. And you think he wouldn't lie to you and trick you in order to get that win? Donald Trump would do that. I think we all know he would do that. And that's what he did. And that's how we got here. A ruined economy, due in part to his tariff policies, despite the fact that Americans voted the guy into office because they thought he was going to fix the economy.
But, tariffs against 80 countries, for example.
And it's really hurting agriculture in Nebraska, to this day.
And so he would be better off if more people spoke up, gave him honest feedback, and it would stop him from doing some of the most the zany things out there that he does. And those comments on Mr. Reiner, they were just ugly. Sure. And we're better than that. And okay, I expect it from some people. They're only at a bar or something, but not the President of the United States, right? We expect better.
But how hard is it for a Republican to speak the truth, push back against Trump, and actually stay in office and not be primaried and not be, the subject of the MAGA machine online? And
well, for a time, it was practically impossible. If you were a Republican, you were a MAGA Republican, and that's what it was. If you weren't MAGA, you were a rhino. But nowadays, we're starting to see that change. The never-Trump Republicans aren't really a thing necessarily, but we're seeing the MAGA Republicans split away towards a critique of Trump for not fulfilling any of his promises. Trump was never America First. That's just what he ran on. And all the people who voted for America First policies are pissed now. And when I say America First, I mean like America isolationist, no tax dollars leave America, no war, no foreign aid, no foreign spending. This random alliance mage came up and just started fishing right on top of me. Fucking annoying.
Well,
I've had 4 primaries, and the last 2 times from the right, there was a lot of focus. I wasn't loyal enough to Trump. I would have probably not run again earlier, because there's other things I want to do in life, but I wanted to prove a point in our district that the majority supports common sense, decency, Reagan conservatism, and so I stayed in an extra run or 2 just to prove I don't know what you want to call them, the far right or the Trump loyalists, that he can do no wrong, that crowd. And I wanted to run just to prove a point that the majority want decency and more of a Reagan Republican ideology. And so I've done it, 5 times is enough.
You're ready.
I'm ready for doing something else.
All right. Well, thank you for all.
Like, there really is a clear beginning of a move away from Trump. The Republican Party knows that they can't just win because Trump exists or because Trump is on the ballot forever. Whenever Trump is on the ballot, Republicans across the board end up performing better. This is an objectively true fact in every election that we've had that Trump has been involved in, compared to the ones where he hasn't been involved. When Trump is on the ballot, every Republican does better. Trump can't be on any more ballots, though. The Republican Party can no longer bank on the idea that Trump on the ballot is going to get them votes across the country for all of their candidates. They've got to put their eggs into a different basket. Or, if they fail to remove their eggs from the Trump basket, we're going to watch all of the Republicans' eggs get smashed. And that's going to be really funny. At the very least, it's going to be very funny. There's so much to talk about with all this. The Trump dynasty is falling apart. We really do need to keep up and make sure that we're constantly on top of what's going on here, because I'm thinking at the very least by the end of next year, maybe even early next year, we're going to begin to see the Trump dynasty really start to fall out, like in public. We're going to start seeing big public figures like Trump and Elon fighting again, or Trump and RFK fighting or something. I'm really excited. This is not sustainable. All of this has got to start falling apart soon, and I am so excited. I am so freaking excited. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it entertaining, educational, or enjoyable in any way, and you want to support my content, leave a like down below, comment if you would like. In fact, here's a code word. Comment Bobber if you watched all the way to the end of the video. That'll be the code word that tells me you saw all the way to the end, because no one else, unless they watched all the way to the end, they wouldn't know to say Bobber. And of course, if you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and join my fan Discord to be a part of my community. With all that said, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next video.